when someone's got pain, it creates a veil over their thinking and over their way of being. And when you give them a little bit of a lift of that veil and some hope that they can be living without this degree of discomfort, it can be quite life-changing for people. And I find that, if anything came out of me breaking my leg that was good, it was probably that.
Welcome back, friends. This week we're talking to Eli Haski. Eli is the owner of Canberra Yoga Space, based in Phillip. She has trained in anatomy, fitness, dance fitness, kinesiology, and yoga. She also plays the sound bowls every Friday at the studio for members and non-members for free. These sound bowls changed my life, and I wanted to bring her on the show to share her life story. This week we talk about not sweating the small stuff, healing with sound, absorbing grief in different ways, and diamond grading. You can listen to her sound bowl meditation sessions on her SoundCloud channel. Just look for Canberra Yoga Space. If you know someone, personally, professionally, or even on social media, they might have a cool story, a creative hustle, or they just live life differently. Those are my people. Please email, message, DM me your recommendations so I can invite them on the show. My social is @IamBarneypreet and my email is b@IamBarneypreet.com. All right, let's get to the episode. Okay, so I'm going to get straight into your early life because I think that informs a lot of what you're doing today. Well, that's what I believe. When you were young, when you were the age of 5, your brother died. You're the youngest of 4. And you said it was a really significant shift in your family. And I wouldn't even be able to begin to imagine what it would be like for a 5-year-old. So what thoughts were happening and going on in your mind?
Well, to be honest, I have no idea because I have no memory up until I was about 9 is when I started to have memories of stuff. I broke my leg. So I think that sort of sparked my kind of memories as a kid. But I have been told stories about how I would, look up at the sky and say things to him and things like that. But yeah, I think, I feel within myself that it really created this shift. I mean, it put my life on a particular trajectory. And, would life have been different if that hadn't have happened? Who knows? We're never going to know. So it is what it is, But I do feel like it's shaped things in all our lives, and it's shaped our relationships within our family. I mean, I have an amazingly supportive family, and, it's wonderful. But it's there still. It's still raw. It's still discussed. We still remember every year on his birthday and on the anniversary of his passing. And it's definitely something that one does not recover from. It just gets integrated into our being. So as a kid, I have no idea what was going on, but I do know that there was a shift.
Yeah, wow. Even as a child, the fact that you didn't have any memories of it, or even your broken leg that you talked about. So you broke your leg in 4 places, and you were really young when that happens. And you said that it influenced the way you teach and see body in your clients. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, it really sort of affects my own body because my leg is slightly shorter than the other one because I spent 10 weeks in a cast up to my thigh. And then, and so I really feel as a body worker and knowing what I know about anatomy and knowing what I know about gait and how people walk, I kind of see that. I use myself as like a test case, and I can see how the issues that I have in my own body now, how they played out from that event. So when I'm working with people, their history, their physical history as a child is very, very significant because it influences how we walk. And if we can understand that how we walk is affecting all the other things and niggles and problems in our body, then that can give us a lot of insights into how we can help make things better and feel better, because walking is something that we just get up and do, and we don't really think about it. Once you learn to walk as a baby, once you're walking, it's like, okay, boom, I can get from A to B, and that we don't really think much more about it unless you doing things like, walking meditation or something like that. But you might also not think about the fact that, an ankle sprain as a kid can be really significant because it changes the way you walk. And then down the track, you've got hip problems and twisted pelvis and all this kind of stuff. So, watching people walk, you can tell a lot about a person by the way they walk and their posture, and so, and often, changing somebody's walk and helping them, it changes other aspects of their life. It's quite interesting, because you help someone feel better physically, and that lifts the veil, because, when someone's got pain, it creates a veil over their thinking and over their way of being. And when you give them a little bit of a lift of that veil and some hope that they can be living without this degree of discomfort, it can be quite life-changing for people. And I find that, if anything came out of me breaking my leg that was good, it was probably that.
If there's anything, it would be the fact that you can help others understand their own body as well. But separate to the body work that you've been doing for so many years, you also studied jewelry, and you were in the jewelry industry for 12 years. And so you studied a Bachelor of Fine Arts. You also did a diploma in Gemmology. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And diamond grading and a value certification. What is that even like? What is a diploma of Gemmology?
Well, I'm not very good at that. I don't have a very good memory. So memorizing all the different gemstones and their characteristics and all of that was really challenging for me. I did fail second year and had to go back and do it again after being overseas for a year. But it's really cool. Like, it's really good fun. You use a lot of instruments to look at the gems and the stones to identify them. And I like the spectroscope. So you'd put the gem on the spectroscope and you'd look inside and you see all the colours, and certain lines show up depending on what the gemstone is. And that can help you identify the gem. So it was a lot of methodical testing of stuff. And then diamond grading was the same kind of thing, but looking just at diamonds and working out what's real and what's not. Pretty significant, if you have two stones and one's worth, several $1,000s and the other one's worth like $1. You don't want to get that wrong. Yeah. And so I felt like there was a lot of pressure. And these days, the diamond industry got really tricky just as I was leaving, because there were a lot of what they call enhancements being done. They'd shoot stuff into the stone and it would clear up a lot of the inclusions, a lot
shoot
of
stuff into the stone?
Yeah, they vacuum press all this crystal liquid stuff into the stone. The technology is incredible, but it would take away a lot of the inclusions or imperfections in the stone. So it would make what was like not a fabulous stone, like a Si2. So it's in categories of like flawless, VS, or VVS, which is very, very slightly included, VS, which is very slightly included, and they have like their 1 and 2, and then SI, which is slightly included, 1 and 2, and then SI, and then
what does slightly included mean?
So SI, you can actually see the stuff inside the diamond with the naked eye, right? You need to be somewhat trained. If you're like looking at your diamond, like, oh, look at me, fancy, and you wouldn't see it, right? Because there's too much light bouncing around, it's all sparkly. But if you're looking at it with a loupe, you can see it fairly easily, and there's a lot of junk. Sometimes there's black stuff in there. Sometimes there's like little splays. They have different names, all the different. But these days they can shoot like crystalline stuff into the stone and fill in a lot of these holes and make what was an SI, or like not a very great, because of course the clearer and the cleaner the stone, the more expensive it is.
Right, because it's all about clarity, not size.
It's all about the 4 C's, right? Can I remember it? Color, clarity, cut, and carat. So the size, the way it's cut, right? If a diamond is cut really well, even if it's got some inclusions in it, it will still front up better, like if the proportions are really good. And that depends on the shape and the size of the crystal, because they're always going to cut to maximize how much they can get out of the particular crystal. And then the color is really important. So if you were buying a stone, I would always say go for a better color and a lesser clarity, because the color is actually what you see. If there's a bit of yellow in it, if it's like a HI, you will see that more than you'll see any kind of inclusions in it. So the color, getting a better color is probably going to be more bang for your buck.
So what made you get into jewelry in the first place? Like, where did the interest come from?
So I finished my Bachelor of Fine Arts, and I majored in jewelry and object design quite by accident. I was doing sculpture and painting and that kind of stuff. And then
where did you study?
At COFA in Sydney, at College of Fine Arts. And, I left school. The only thing I really did well in was art. I had a painting hang in Art Express in the Art Gallery of New South Wales.
Whoa, that's a big deal.
Yes, that was exciting. That painting also went to San Francisco and went around the world with the exhibition. So I did that, and I went to COFA and I did the degree. And when I finished, it was like, okay, what do I do now? And I started making, I got a job, my first full-time job, making bridal jewelry. Yeah, and my mum bumped into a lady who was my kindergarten teacher and said, oh, what is she doing now, and blah, blah, blah. And said, oh, well, she's interested in jewelry, she's making this stuff. And during uni, I was making stuff and selling it at the markets with a friend of mine.
This is early 90s right now, or mid-90s. Mid-90s, nice.
This lady said, oh, well, she should go and do Gemmology diploma. So my mum told me, and I like gemstones and what have you. So I'm like, all right, something to do. So off I went and I did that. And so I was making the bridal jewelry and studying at night a couple of times a week, and they were quite close, so I would just walk from work up to Wentworth Avenue to the Gemmology house. And I did that. Then I went overseas, and it was back in the day when backpacking and, getting a UK visa to go and work in the UK was really hot thing to do as a 20-year-old, right? And I was trying to find myself and all of that. So I had one of my friends that I was living with had moved to the UK and was living in Brighton. So she's like, come over, you can stay with me for a bit and, just travel. So I bought a backpack, I bought a Ural ticket, I bought a plane ticket, and I went for 12 months overseas. And that was heaps of fun. And I'm really glad that I did that, ended up in Africa for 3 months, living in Africa with the man I married and had children with.
Something else that, came up that you had written about is your miscarriage in 2008. And I wonder, what's something that people just don't understand about a miscarriage?
Miscarriages are very common, and not a lot of people talk about them because I don't know why, right? Because they feel there's some kind of stigma, or they've made some sort of failure, or, they're super common. Like 50%, I think, of all pregnancies end in a miscarriage. That's a huge proportion. For me, it was a really, it was a time for me to tune into my intuition And I really learned a lot about the power of intuition through that, because when I conceived that baby, I knew that I would lose her. I knew it was a girl, and I knew I would lose her, all in a split second.
When did you know this?
The second I conceived her. So it was an interesting time in my life. It wasn't the rosiest of times. It wasn't the best of times in my relationship. And I knew that, I don't even know why we were having sex, but we were. And I knew I'd conceived, that I would conceive from it, and I knew that I would lose her. And sure enough, 10 weeks later, I did. And even if when I told people I was pregnant, and I was very big at the time, like I still hadn't lost the weight after Wilson. And even when I conceived her, like even when I would talk about her, being pregnant with people, in my back of my mind, it always was like, but it's not going to last, So, but it didn't stop me telling people. I'm not one of these people that, I'm not going to tell people I'm pregnant until 12 weeks in. And I'm like, I'm an open book, right? I'll tell anybody anything if they ask me the question, And I think, and then when I had the miscarriage, there was a lot of, you poor thing, and da-da-da. And, I was a bit numb to it all. It's only in later years that I think I've come to kind of, think about it. You kind of move on. I think from a miscarriage, you don't often think about it a lot.
Is that just like a coping mechanism, do you think?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. And I think...
And everyone's different too.
Everyone's different. And I think because I already had a child, it wasn't so impacting. Like it was. I really feel like I was affected by it. But I already had a child. I think if it's your first pregnancy, or your first trying for your first baby, and you have a miscarriage, this is much more significant emotionally. But I think if you've already got a kid, you can do it, And so, and with Wilson, like it was a breeze of a pregnancy. I didn't have any problems. So when I miscarried with Eve, it was like, okay, well, this isn't good. It gave me the impetus to lose weight again, because I thought, well, I do want to have another baby. It helped me solidify that. Actually, yes, I do. And so it helped give me the motivation to lose weight again, which I did. And I was thinking about it the other day, actually. I fell pregnant with Benji like straight away. And if I hadn't have miscarried Eve, I wouldn't have Benji. And he's the best, I love both my boys, but he's, like he's unbelievable. So, I kind of think, well, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have him.
Right, because you wouldn't have had a third child. You wouldn't have gone for number 3.
No. And time frame wise as well, like I would have still been pregnant when he was conceived.
When you moved from Sydney to Canberra, you were out, you were on the lookout for something different. You were done with the jewelry industry. You were looking for something new. And I really want to get to yoga and the sound bowls. So I'm just going to jump the gun here a little bit. I will mention, you did a lot of training in dance and in fitness. You did anatomy training. You studied as a masseuse, and you did kinesiology training. Then you did a yoga teacher training scholarship. So here we are. You became the owner of Canberra Yoga Space in 2018. And I just want to know, what was it about yoga that clicked?
It's funny. It didn't happen till I hit yoga teacher training. I hadn't been practicing. See, my yoga journey is a bit odd. And I feel, sometimes I get that imposter syndrome. It's a big thing, imposter syndrome, right? And I get that sometimes, but now I know, like, fuck that. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't swear.
We all swear on the podcast. It's all good.
Okay, good. There's, it was like, this is nonsense talk, because when I walked into yoga teacher training, and I was given it as a scholarship on the back of a mental health class, fitness class that I was teaching, I realized very quickly that I was in a room with a whole bunch of people that thought the same way I did. And so that was hugely powerful for me because I'd always felt like an outlier. I always felt like I never fit in. I didn't have a tribe or a group of people that I could relate to. I always was like just that little on the fringe of things. I had lots of friends, but they were all different friendship groups. Da 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 da. So when I found yoga, not only did the movements and the practice, I actually could do the movements, and I'm not flexible. I'm the most unflexible yoga teacher you'll come across. You know, I have become more flexible through my practice, but it's not why I practice. It's a fantastic byproduct of yoga practice. But I felt, and especially being, never physically feeling particularly comfortable because I was always bigger. And when I went to teach training, I had put on a little bit of the weight that I'd lost, but I was still smaller than I am now. Like I'm 12 kilos odd heavier than I was at yoga teacher training. That's what happens when you get in a relationship, right? You get comfortable. And I work too much, but yoga really showed me that it was okay to be me. And I didn't have to try and be anybody else, and I didn't have to try and fit into anybody else's box. And it really was an invitation for me to just explore who I am and who I want to be. And that's what really resonates most with me. And we can get there through the vehicle of asana and physical practice. We can get there through the vehicle of meditation. And I think for me, meditation and playing the crystal bowls has been really one of the major vehicles of me opening up into myself and just going, hey, I love this stuff and I can do this for work. Like, how crazy is that?
It's incredible. I will now recommend the things to do to Canberra. Sorry, I will recommend the things to do in Canberra being a sound bath meditation with you on a Friday night, because you were so generous with it. You give it for free. Friday nights, you don't have to have a subscription at Canberra Yoga Space or a membership with Canberra Yoga Space in order to do it. It is completely free. And I just think it's like a to-do list to do in Canberra and to experience a part of Canberra. And it just makes me so excited when I had discovered this, because I'm not a meditation person, like in a direct way. Like guided meditation, I don't resonate with it as much. Words don't help as much as sound for me. Like even when I listen to music and I sing a lot and I do music, the sound resonates deeper to me than the words, which is not everyone. Everyone interprets music differently. But for me to experience that was so new and so exciting that it just felt so good to just let the sound do its work and just be with the music. So let's talk about these sound bowls. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you discover it?
I had been to my first sound bath at Canberra Yoga Space. This lady called Barbara Jackson came a couple of times. And the first time she came, I was like, yeah, I'm down with that. And so I went along as a participant and I lay down and she played. I don't even know what happened. I think I heard the first 3 kind of notes or bowls and I was just gone. I don't know. Like I knew I wasn't asleep, but I had a profoundly deep meditation, I guess, or dropping into a different level. And it was hugely profound for me and super healing. And so I always, and from that point on, I was like, this is amazing. And I never thought to do it myself. And then one day I was online and I saw, that you could buy these bowls on the internet. And I'm like, oh, and I'd been playing like the metal bowls and stuff a little bit. I had a few and I liked them. And And I was interested in sound. I've always been interested in singing. I sing, probably not great, but I sing. I like to sing. And I love the effect of vibration. I really understand that vibration and sound is a wonderful tool. And then through my kinesiology training, there was getting people to make specific sounds can be very, very healing. So I understood about this idea of sound healing and vibration and tuning forks and blah, blah, blah. And so I bought a crystal bowl, one, and I was like, and I took it in, and thankfully my meditation group, I started teaching the meditation. I was super nervous because I'm like, I don't know how to teach this stuff, right? Anyway, thankfully I had a group of people that were coming that was super generous in humoring me through my learning process, and they loved it as well, majority. I did lose a couple of people, they were like, yeah, this is not for me, and they went, okay, whatever. And so I bought this C, and I bought the root chakra because I'm like, well, a lot of people need grounding for the most part.
Wait, did you say C as in the C note?
Yes.
That's the root chakra?
Yeah.
Okay, because I was going to ask you, what are the notes that they're tuned to for each chakra?
Yeah, so I can show you on my chart. C, so this is a chakra chart.
So for those of our listeners, Ellie's showing us a chart in our video podcast. And so just run us through it. So what's the first one?
So the root chakra is a red color, and that's the note of C. And then the sacral chakra is an orange color, and that's D note. And then the solar plexus, which is in your belly. So the root is sort of in the base, in the perineum and through the legs. And then the sacral chakra is in the low belly, so our creative center, in our reproductive organs and that kind of thing. And then the solar plexus is in the belly, right, in the center of the belly. And that's our energy force, our doing space, where we create fire and heat and energy. And that's node CDE. The heart chakra is a green color. That's the F note. And so obviously that's in the heart space, in the center of the chest. And then the throat is a light blue color, C, D, E, F, G note. And then the third eye is a sort of an indigo color. Obviously that's our spiritual center and our sense of intuition and knowing. And that's A. And then the crown chakra is like white light, or the 1,000-petal lotus, so this unfolding, and that's B note.
Oh wow, so it's a C major scale.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so sometimes you get bowls that are minor and major. I'm not really great with the thing. There's with musically, I'm not very inclined, right? I've played many instruments, the violin, the cello, the piano, the drums, the clarinet. I've played a lot of instruments. So I've always been interested in music, but never very good at any of them. I wouldn't practice, and I'd get frustrated because I couldn't play it perfectly the first time, right? What is this practice thing? How annoying, right? And so playing the bowls was like, oh, wow, here's some instruments that I can actually play, because it's not rocket science to play them. I think it helps to be highly intuitive in order to allow a healing to occur through the bowls.
Yeah, right. And so what are your bowls already tuned, or do you have to tune them or fine tune them, or they're always tuned?
Yeah. So the bowls I bought in a set. I think it's definitely, if you're looking to buy bowls or anything and you want to be specific about the sound, buy them in the set, because they're all going to be tuned to each other. They're going to be.
Imagine a sound bowl, Ellie, in a jazz scale.
That'd be amazing. Well, my friend Bianca has like a F sharp, which is a higher heart bowl is super powerful. You've come to the epic sound bath that we have. So she plays that F sharp, and she's just got another one. I don't know the note, but it's a sapphire infused crystal bowl. It's super potent. It's all about. It's actually D. It's a D something, D sharp or something like that, because it's a sacral chakra bowl and it's super powerful. So that's coming up on the next epic sound bath, which you're booked into.
Yes, I am. I'm so excited. So for our viewers and listeners, if they ever want to listen to the sound bath recordings, they're on Ellie's SoundCloud page, well, the Canberra Yoga Space SoundCloud page, and I'll put it in the links below, because even that, I've referred to that so many times on the days that I couldn't come, and it was still so incredible. So I'll definitely put that in the links below.
Yeah, awesome. In the last sort of couple of months, or this year really, that I've really kind of honed my skill as a player and as a conduit for the healing to occur. And I now find that I'm not just playing, like I write poetry in my head whilst I play, and I can theme the stuff. And I did a lot over lockdown because I wasn't playing and I had a bit more time. I was doing a lot of Dadiri meditation, which is a listening meditation up in the bush. And so I was, there was a lot of birds and a lot of listening to the sound of the wind and the trees and the way, the cracks in the trees as the wind hit and things like that. And so I did a lot of that meditation over the lockdown. And that's, I find now coming back to playing the bowls again, because I wasn't going in to practice or anything like that. I just, I sort of really believe in everything has its time.
How long did it take you to believe that everything has its time?
Yeah. I've always felt that, actually. I think that's part of being an intuit, is that, you're always in where you're supposed to be at any given moment, and surrendering to that is important, and recognizing that there's time for everything. I'm much better at it now. There were moments where I felt overwhelmed by what was needed to be done and what have you, and I have to remind myself, hang on a minute, take a breath, everything in its time, you will get this done, relax, don't stress,
I feel like one of the times that you're mentioning where things are really hard, I'm sure would have been the time where, a long period of time that you took care of your dad. He was sick for most of his life, and you were his caregiver for a lot of it, and you helped him through that, and he passed away in 2008. You don't really have to delve deep if you don't want to, but to care for I cared for my grandparents for 1 year. And it was like when my grandmother, she had a foot drop, and out of all our family members, I was studying. So for me, logically, it made sense for me to take that time off, because everyone else from a financial standpoint, was helping the family in a different way. And I also didn't want to lose that year, because I knew that was the year that my granddad was diagnosed with dementia. And that was the year that my grandmother got a foot drop and she spiraled into depression. And I felt like that was the last year I would have with them as conscious as possible. And that's just 1 year. But a lifespan is just a different situation. What was that like, always like having to care for someone constantly for that long?
It's just the way it was. Like when I was little, my mum, we all dealt with my brother's passing in different ways. And my mum threw herself into study and work. So she changed career and she became a psychotherapist. So she did a lot of therapy and then became a therapist. And she's a very good therapist. And at 75, she's still working. She wants to retire, but people keep asking her to keep going. So, so that's, my dad also threw himself into work. He was a general practitioner, and so he worked a lot. And I see myself in him in the way that I am as a practitioner. I'm the closest thing as a doctor in my family. But I also saw his decline. He was diabetic. He had a car accident when he was 30 that injured his hip. So then he had lots of trouble and pain in his hip. He didn't manage his diabetes particularly well. So he was insulin dependent. And he had a lot of sorrow that just manifested in him as disease. But I knew intuitively that this was happening. How could it not? How could the mind and the emotions not show up in the body? And this is a huge part of my philosophy as a healer now, is this concept of, what is happening here and here manifests physically. I mean, I think the caring for him, it took its toll. When he passed away, there was a lot of relief. And I think anybody that's caring for somebody for an extended period of time, doesn't matter what illness they have, there's this mixture of sorrow because that person is gone, and relief that their suffering is over and that your suffering is over, because we all paid a very heavy price. And all of our decision making was around, how do we deal with Dad? How do we, do I go away? What happens? What's the contingency plan if something happens and I have to come back? And, all those kinds of things. So it was always factored in. It taught me to live my life fully and to not have regrets. So if I feel the urge to do something, whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, I'll probably still do it, because I don't want to live in regret. I don't want to live my life worrying about the small stuff. I don't even worry about the big stuff, like it's really given me that opportunity to live in present moment awareness more fully, because I've seen what happens when you don't. And that's, I think, why I love to help people and heal people, as in whatever capacity. And I'm lucky because I've kind of been gifted with and fallen into these opportunities that have given me the ability to not only help somebody with their physical pain through the body work that I do, or through yoga practice as a yoga teacher, but I've also I have the tools to provide someone an opportunity to deal with their mental and emotional pain as well, either through yoga practice or through the sound healing or through the body work. Like, people talk to me whilst I'm working on them physically. They talk to me and they shift the stuff. And the beautiful thing about sound, see how good I am at bringing it all back together. The beautiful thing about sound is that it can cut through all the shit. We don't have to think. We don't have to talk, right? My mum does talk therapy. I'm not a big believer in talk therapy. I mean, it has its place. But when we talk about our trauma and we talk about the things that upset us, we're reliving that physically, right? Our body chemistry brings that all back again. And how helpful is that? In my opinion, not that helpful, right? What we need to do is shift that chemistry so that the body has a better way of dealing with it. And that's what the sound does so well, because it's cellular, because it passes through us. The sound passes through. If when you're lying on the floor, the vibration, sometimes I'll be playing a bowl and I'll have my hand on the bolster that I'm sitting on, and it's the whole bolster as well is vibrating. So I'm the lucky one, because I get it right through underneath me and around me, but in my hands as well, because I've got that vibration coming straight into my hands. And I think that if I were not who I am and not as open to just being really in this present moment and being open to all possibility. Yeah, I don't shut myself off to anything, because and I catch myself when I'm doing it, right? Because if we can be open in that way and allowing ourselves to receive the gifts that are around us and transform all the difficult stuff in our life to be in some way helpful to others, then this is a much richer way of living, and so I'm just super lucky that I've now got all these tools in my tool bag as a healer on so many different levels, and I'm interested in all those different things, and I really see now that they've all come together to give me this wonderful gift to be able to help people.
Thanks, Ellie, for being on the show.
You're very welcome. This was super fun, and I think we could probably talk for hours.
I love this chat. You can follow at Canberra Yoga Space to keep up with more of Ellie's work, listen to her sound bowl meditations on SoundCloud, or come in for a Friday meditation session at the studio for free. Go to www.canberrayogaspace.com.au for more information. All right, till next week, folks.